I'm Zim, and you're listening to the Helpful Photographer Podcast in collaboration with New York City Photo Safari. To register for a safari, please visit newyorkcityphotosafari.com. I recently saw someone ask on Facebook, how do I get started in photography? Because I'm starting from zero. For me, it's hard to imagine anyone who is starting photography from zero, especially now. If you've had any kind of smartphone or even a flip phone in the last 20 years, you will have had a camera in your hands. And the thing is, I cannot imagine anyone who has never had a camera before just waking up one day and thinking, I'd like to do photography. I wonder how that works. If you're thinking that you want to get into photography as a hobby or as a pro, in the least, you've probably taken some photos and have found the experience to be fun. And that's why you want to do more. My point is that you didn't start from zero. So let's start from there. You've had at least some experience, even if it's just on a smartphone. How do you move the ball further down the road? In my opinion, you first have to identify what you enjoy about photography. Is it the act of creating a photo, or is it the process of taking a photo? If it's the latter, then you don't actually want to become a photographer. What you want to do is you want to become a photo assistant. If it's the former, my question is, what subject matter do you enjoy photographing? From there, just start taking pictures of those things. Use your auto modes. Use whatever lens or lenses you have at your disposal. Use whatever camera you have at your disposal. Look at other people's work of the same subject matter. See if you can replicate that with the equipment you have available. Then, when you hit a wall and you can't seem to get exactly what it is you want, then it's time to figure out whether it's a lack of knowledge or a lack of equipment. The problem is, most people go to the lack of equipment thing first. But I've come to find that unless you're doing something really specialized like underwater or macro photography and certain types of astrophotography, your problem is not equipment. The problem is usually a lack of understanding of how the camera works and a lack of visual understanding. That's the composition thing. But even here, most people are leveraging too much of their time on the technical rather than the artistic. What's going on is that people most often divert their attention to the low-hanging fruit, hoping that it'll fix their photography woes. Buying equipment is really easy, that is if you have the pocketbook for it. And the technical parts of photography, well, that's a little bit harder, but in reality, it's also pretty easy. Although for many this seems really daunting, it's actually much easier than the artistic side of photography because you can learn the technical stuff from a book or from YouTube. If you can get in front of a live instructor, you can cut the learning curve significantly because you can ask specific questions when you get lost. But the artistic or compositional aspects of photography cannot be learned from a book, and it cannot be learned or taught overnight. Despite that, many will try to reduce it down to one of three things: the rule of thirds, the Fibonacci rule, also known as the golden ratio, and leading lines. The fact is, composition cannot be reduced to a flowchart. You can't simply say all you need to do is to place these elements in these places in your frame and your images will magically look great. Art simply doesn't work like that. Your composition is not just about where the elements are in your frame, it's a matter of self-expression. It takes time to learn, to nurture, and to mature that vision. It's also about personal honesty. In other words, I'm talking about self-awareness. In my opinion, in order to express yourself, you need to know who you are, and that takes at least some self-awareness. As a result of this, it's something that should be constantly changing throughout your life, as your vision of the world and yourself changes, and as the world changes around you. There are no shortcuts to learning how to express yourself, and it is very difficult to grow as an artist without a community which allows you a place to discuss your art, which to some extent is an expression of who you are. In my opinion, to get into photography, you just need to keep shooting and analyzing your work. And you need a community in which you can have meaningful conversations. And like I say at the end of every episode, keep on shooting, because that's what it's going to take.